Hey guys, Rocambasco here, and today I tried beating Dead Island with only broken weapons. And what does that mean? Well, broken things tend to be useless, so my weapons do pretty much no damage. And forget creating badass weaponry that looks like this, because weapons with status effects applied to them, like electricity, fire, toxic, bleeding, etc., only activate if your weapon isn't broken. So basically, every weapon I use is just an oversized Q-tip. Oh, and for this challenge, I chose to be Xian. First of all, she has some really useful offensive skills that would be absolutely necessary for the completion of this challenge. Well, maybe not necessary, but still pretty good. And secondly, she's Asian, so she reminds me of one of my favorite things on the entire planet. Anime. So the game begins in a hotel room. I wake up with a hangover, which could only mean one thing. The party isn't over just yet, so I broke down some doors, had a race with some other hotel guests, but then security took me out, because there's a strict no running in the hallway policy. A security guard fondled my unconscious titties, and with that, I pass out. When I came to, I was in a hut, but the hut was in a rut because something was trying to break into these walls, just like how those men were trying to break into my walls a couple seconds ago. And that's when Dominic told me that while I was unconscious, the zombie apocalypse had started. Waking up to the zombie apocalypse, I was basically Rick Grimes now. But now the zombies were trying to break in here, because the fondler who fondled me earlier was doing a shit job of protecting us. So I busted outside to help him, but I couldn't use my paddle, because any weapon that can't be upgraded and doesn't have a level requirement just instantly gets discarded when they're broken, such as paddles, broomsticks, pipes, you name it. So my first order of business was finding an actual weapon. So I ran to the nearest weapon chest, found a knife, I broke it on one of the corpses that wasn't alive, and I successfully helped defeat all the undead. After that, a man called us on the radio, and he told us that if we found him, he would help us find a way off the island. But before he could give us details on our escape, a monsoon hit. So now, we have some time to kill until it passes and we get back in contact with him. So with that, the intro ends. My first order of business in any Dead Island challenge is to clear the lifeguard tower so we could all live there for the rest of our lives. That is, until the undead decide to break in and kill us all, but it'll be a pretty sweet ride up until that point, so I grabbed the keycard and made my way there. Trying to fight the undead with broken weapons was like trying to soak up Squidward Tentacle's tears with only 2-ply tissue paper. Sure, it may work, but it's gonna take a lot of time that I don't have, so that's why I chose Xian. Since my normal attacks weren't gonna cut it, get it? Cause all the weapons she uses are sharp? I had to rely on using skills and tactics that would give me a damage boost during combat, such as her ability to do increased damage when attacking an enemy from behind, her jumping attack skill, which causes weapons to do extra damage when attacking in midair, attacking the heads of enemies, and of course, those all-important critical attacks. Because I mean, just look at how helpful they are. That floater went from full health to dead in just a couple of seconds, and that's all thanks to the critical attacks. So any and all skills that supported critical attacks was a must-have. But she has another skill, one that us Xian players are so hot for that we're scrambling over each other to get it. And that's the skill called Stroke of Cock. Stroke of Luck, which gives her a small chance to insta-kill any enemy. But it'll be a while until I can even think about getting that skill, so for now, I just had to rely on my broken weapon. I picked off the zombies one by one with my butter knife, using the environment to my advantage, and now it was time to face off against my first thug. This guy was a menace to society. His arms, long as fuck. His attacks, strong as balls. And his health, mamma mia. But in no time, he game overed. When I did defeat him, he dropped a wrench. It wasn't ideal for me to use it since I'm a sharp weapons user, and I've never heard of no woman using tools before, but considering I didn't even really have sharp weapon skills yet, and the wrench did more damage than my knife, I decided to use this for now. Also, when it comes to broken weapons, the damage that they do is actually based on a percentage of what their base damage is. So let's say a broken weapon deals 5% of what its base damage is. That means upgrading a weapon's damage is still viable, because even though you're breaking the weapon after you upgrade it, 5% of 508 damage is gonna do more damage than 5% of 343 damage. And I know that's damage per second, But, you know, you're still upgrading the damage a little bit. So that's just a little fact for you. So, there you go. So with that, I finished off the zombies in the lifeguard tower. I continued on like this for a while. I struggled to fight hordes of undead, but eventually, I'd get the job done and complete the task at hand. Rinse and repeat, baby. So I obtained the cans, delivered the juice, and that's when the fondler pulled me aside and had a heart-to-heart. He told me that his name is Cinemoy, and he has a dream. Ever since he was a wee lad, he had wanted a Bank of Benoit truck, but that was a difficult dream to achieve when you were poor. So he became an adult, became a lifeguard, and right when he had almost saved enough money to buy his dream car, the zombie apocalypse destroyed civilization. But he didn't give up on his dream just yet. He told me about the Bank of Benoit truck in the hotel, and his story just tugged at my heartstrings. It was so emotional, so I made my way there to get it for him. But my god, sending me to this house of horrors, this den of death, this shelter of shit, just to achieve his stupid dream, was taking advantage of my inability to say no to people. He would pay in full for all the blood, sweat, cum, and tears he made me shed in that hostel for hostiles. So I fought my way to the garage, took the truck, cleared a path for the truck so I didn't run any zombies over and fail the challenge, and made my way back to the lifeguard tower. But that's when I realized why the fondler wanted this truck so badly. Because, just like me, it was very cool. So I delivered the truck to Cinemoy, I took the truck as a reward for getting it for him, and now it was time to go to church and pray. But when I got there, the church was under siege by a crazy guy. Not even a deaf person could pray properly with all this racket, so I tore through his spinal cord like a divorce tears through the happiness of a stable family, and I saved the day. Mother Helen thanked me for my devotion to God and my service to the church, and then she told me that everyone here was starving and thirsty. But these Christians and their grumbling tummies were entirely not my problem. I just came to the city to pray. But I had a whole day until I would talk to the man on the radio again, so to kill some time, I made my way to the pump station, I killed everyone, stole their water, and then, when I returned to the church, I made Joseph show me a less than safe, more than spooky, and 100% sneaky way into the supermarket via the sewers, and now I killed even more survivors, I stole their food, and gave it to the people of the church. When I completed all my good deeds, it was almost time to return to the resort and talk to the man on the radio. But when I tried opening my car door, I realized that my vehicle was gone. I found Joseph in the fetal position nearby, and he told me that he made the mistake of letting a woman drive. So she ended up driving to the police station instead of the church, mistook all the bad men there for Christians, and now, because of that, my vehicle was being held hostage. So now, it was time for Operation Sneak Through the Sewers, infiltrate the police station, and save my dream car. So I snuck through the sewers by sprinting past every zombie in a blind panic, I infiltrated the police station, and found my truck. But of course, this rescue mission wouldn't be that easy, because they took my keys. So I carved through the undead, I pet a cute dog, and then I started taking revenge on the thugs in the police station one by one. Difficulty-wise, it was nothing new, just business as usual. I told the woman that she was a piece of shit, and if she ever did that again, I'd feed her rat poison, and with that, I saved my dream car. Now that I had my car again, I made my way back to the resort, talked to the man on the radio, and he said that he was super duper far away in a prison on one of the islands, and to get there, we would need to go to the jungle, find a boat, and then find a guide. So I fought my way to a bunker, slightly struggled to kill the zombies, I entered the sewers, and now, somehow, we were in the jungle. Oh, and the man on the radio called because he forgot to tell us that he wasn't saving us for free. So in return for him saving us, we would have to stop at a laboratory so the scientists there can make a cure with our blood. Just a little detail he forgot to mention. So I met some locals, and then they told us that the last boat in the area was owned by a guy named Afran. He had it, and I needed it, so I made my way there to kill him. In a nutshell, if you want to know what happened to Afran, I saved some pictures. So, this is Afran before he met me, and this is Afran after I learned of his existence. Sure, it may have taken me 15 minutes to kill him since he's a beefy boy, but like any enemy in this challenge, it's all about the cycle. Get some hits in, die, respawn, and do it over and over and over again until I inevitably win in the end. But a simple slicing and dicing wasn't enough for this behemoth. I'd be in big trouble if he decided to reincarnate as a zombie. So to be on the safe side, I blew off all of his limbs, kicked him down a flight of stairs to paralyze him, and then I drowned him. Now that he was a drowning amputee with a broken back, I was 30% convinced that he was actually dead. So I took the boat, the locals led me to a guide, and then I made my way to the laboratory. I was in the pre-end game now. The laboratory meant that my next stop was the prison, so I gave my blood to the Baldy so he could make the cure, but it'd be a while before he finished alchemying the cure, so now I was doing whatever I could to pass the time. So I helped out with the chores, turned on the electricity, fought in an arena, and went on some nice nature walks with the local natives. And that brings me to the escort missions. These missions were supposed to be the hardest in the entire game, but since I got the stroke of cock skill, I had a 4.5% chance of insta-killing any enemy, and this 4.5% chance always seemed to work for me right away on the toughest enemies, like thugs and butchers. Sometimes, all I needed was a single hit before they would sign out of existence. So I finished the escort missions with ease, we gather supplies to leave for the prison, the laboratory gets overrun by undead, but not before the scientists could finish cooking the vaccine in the fridge, and now, it was time to leave the island and head to the prison. The man in charge of all these prisoners was someone named Tight Ass, but I just didn't believe that was his real name, because there's no such thing as a prisoner with a tight ass. He wanted us to run some errands for him, and in return, he would show us where the man on the radio was. At this point in the game, I had fully mastered the art of using broken weapons, so getting through these zombie-infested quests was a piece of cake for me. So I finished all the prison missions in no time, I made my way to the highest room of the tallest tower, and now it was time for the roof showdown. The only thing more wet than that rain was my pussy when I realized I was gonna complete this challenge successfully. It may have been easy as fuck for, I don't know, 99% of the run, but a win is still a win. I finally found the man on the radio, but he wasn't the man on the radio anymore. Now, he was the man in front of us holding a gun. He didn't want to help us anymore because he's allergic to two things: overalls and tomboys. So naturally, he was furious and terrified when he saw this chick. He tried keeping her at a distance before he had an allergic reaction, but it was too late. He already changed into something totally disgusting, so now I had to put him out of his misery. You can pretty much guess how this boss fight went, so in no time, I finally broke him with my broken weapons, and with that, we left the island and beat the game. So can you beat Dead Island with only broken weapons? Hell yes you can. It's actually stupidly easy. Well, subscribe, leave a comment and all that other shit, and I'll see you all in the next one.